Yeah, hello friends. So today we are going to discuss one important relationship, that is employee and manager relationship. So we will discuss this in details, and for explaining this we are going to use Rails associations, and two associations we will be using in managing this relationship, that will be has many and has one association. And basically we will be using the Rails 7 application. So let's begin. So we will be continuing in the same application which we have used in the previous video to explain the relationship, how to manage friends and friendship. Okay, so now firstly we are going to write the migration to generate the employee model inside our application. So let's begin with it. Okay, let's open this migration inside the ID. Okay, so T dot religion manager ID. No? So let's open the user model and define our relationship there. User has one employee. So each user will be linked to one employee. So there will be a one-to-one relationship between the user and the employee. Now let's visit our employee model and define the relationships, associations, and inside the employee model. So employee belongs to a user. So if there is an employee, that means it it need to have a user. So without the user ID or without the user, no employee will get created. Okay, so the employee will be linked to a manager, and an employee cannot be linked to a manager. So this option is kept optional. So a manager itself do not have a manager, or the manager itself can have a manager. So that relationship will become complex. So for the meantime, we are sticking only to if there is an employer, it can have a manager or it cannot have a manager, or the manager itself, it is a manager. It's a simple employee. It's a simple employee. So this way we are keeping it simple. So later on I will explain about if a manager also have a manager, how we are going to manage its association inside the Rails application. Okay, so an employee, yeah. Okay, so an employee, uh, this line number fourth is not for like a simple employee. This line is for the manager. So manager can have multiple subordinates, and the subordinates will have the class name as employee, and the foreign key involved in that will be the manager ID. Okay, so all the subordinates of a manager will have a manager ID. Okay, so let's open let's open our console and see how it is working. Okay, so this is the first user. So let's create a new employee for this user. Manager we are keeping null. So let's create the employee. Then that employee is an engineer. Okay, so there is a typo in designation. Okay, so let's correct this typo using the migration itself. Now let's open this migration inside the Ruby mine. Okay, uh, first field is the name of the table, and the second field is the old name of that column, and the third name, and the third part is the new name you want to keep for your field. So the new name which will be changed, that will be present here, defined here. Okay. Now let's run the Rails DB micro. Okay, so instead of employee, we need to give the instead of the model name, we need to give the table name. So that will be plural. So we are defining it here. Okay, now let's move to the Rails console and let's reload the Rails console. Okay, now so new employee is created. So let's create the employer two. Okay, so first one is the normal employee, that is the engineer, and the second employee is the engineer manager. So let's make the employee two as the manager of the employee one. Okay, now let's verify e1 dot manager, that's e2. Now e2 dot subordinates e1. Okay, so by this approach, we can manage the employee and manager relationship inside our Rails application using has one and has many and belongs to association. And let's go it one step deeper. Let's make the employee third, and for that we are going to find out the user third. Okay, so this can be another approach. So now let's search the subordinates employee employee two. Okay, so there is one difference in the command. So manager ID is getting updated inside the employer table, but here manager ID was getting updated, but the foreign key was not updated. So we are going to update it. E3 dot update. Now we are going to check the subordinates of the employer. Employer 2, that is the manager, so for needs. Manager 2. Okay, so right now it is saying it is displaying only the first subordinate of the manager. So let's see the underlined SQL. Okay, so it is having the limit of one. So let's display all the subordinates. Now we are having three subordinates of the employee. So let's generate the controller of the employee and see how this looks inside the JSON. Okay, so let's now write the routes for it. Or we can have it displayed inside the show. And the parents, we are going to search for ID. And inside the resources, inside the routes, we are going to, yeah, let's open the routing file. We are going to write resources. Okay, now let's run our application and then open it. Okay, let's move to the console and check what are the routes which are there. Okay, so let's modify it to employees. Employees. Skip it back to, let's make it back to employee and run it like this. Okay, so these are all the employees which we have inside our database with ID 1234. Okay, so now let's visit, instead of index page, let's visit the show action, and we are going to display for employee one dot JSON. Okay, so you do not need to define this over. So the employer one do not have any subordinate. Employer second has the three subordinates for it, and the employer third do not have any subordinate. Fourth also do not have any subordinates. So in this manner, we can manage employee and its manager relationship inside Ruby on Rails 7 application. Thank you.